The forest was quiet but not still. Every leaf held its breath as Ibrahim Traoré stepped through the mist, unarmed. He wasn't lost. He knew these trails like veins. But what waited ahead wasn't mapped. Footsteps echoed behind trees. Then, a click. A safety switch. From the shadows, a child stepped forward, holding a rifle. The barrel trembled, but never dropped. Traoré didn't flinch. The boy was no older than 12. Face dirt-streaked, eyes hollowed by nights too long. A red scarf masked his chin. "Don't move," the child whispered. But his hand shook. Traoré raised nothing, only his voice. "Do you know me?" The boy hesitated. No answer. Just fear. Fear of disobedience. Of death. Of memory. "I won't run," Traoré said gently. "You don't have to shoot." The boy blinked. His grip loosened slightly. The forest held its breath again. If you believe some children need more than rescue, they need to be remembered. Comment, still human. This story isn't about war. It's about who we become in its silence. Behind the trees, voices hissed. "He's stalling." "Fire." The boy's shoulders jolted. He turned his head briefly, then back to Traoré. "They said you were dangerous." "I am," Traoré replied. "To those who use boys as shields." The child didn't understand fully, but something shifted in his stance. A question formed. Not yet spoken. Traoré stepped closer. Slowly. No sudden moves. "I knew your brother," he said. The boy flinched. "Liar." But his voice cracked. "We saved your family from the floods," Traoré continued. "Your mother called you Little Lion." The rifle lowered just an inch. But in war, an inch is everything. From the ridge above, a commander barked. "Take the shot." The boy froze. "If I don't, they'll hurt me." Traoré nodded. "They already have." A pause. Then, "But pain isn't loyalty. It's chains." The boy stared, torn between fear and truth. His finger hovered, trembled, then dropped. Traoré exhaled quietly. But the danger wasn't over. Militiamen broke from cover. "He disobeyed," one shouted. Guns raised. Traoré moved fast, arms outstretched, shielding the boy. "You want a target? Choose me." The men halted, confused. This wasn't the script. And that's when the boy screamed. "Stop," the child cried. "He's not like them." His voice cracked the forest air. The commander approached, slow and snarling. "Then he dies like them." But Traoré didn't budge. "Do it," he said. "Show the world who you truly are." His stare didn't break. The gunman's hand did. The boy dropped his weapon and ran to Traoré's side. Behind him, no bullets followed, only silence. One militiaman turned his rifle away. Another backed off entirely. The commander growled, but his army hesitated. Because sometimes defiance is contagious. Traoré placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You were never the enemy." The boy looked up, unsure if tears were allowed. "If you believe children deserve something stronger than rescue dignity, stay with this story. The war may not end today." But something else just did. Traoré led the boy down a slope, his back open to threats. "Why didn't you stop me?" the child asked. "Because they already tried to stop you from being more." A rustle, a shout. A flare hissed in the sky red. Backup was coming. But for whom? The boy pointed. "That cave. They hide recruits there." His voice was smaller now. "We were told you'd kill us." Traoré shook his head. "They were wrong. I only kill what destroys futures." The cave entrance loomed like a mouth. And inside, more children. 5 small figures emerged. Faces masked, rifles misheled. One barely 9. "Get back," they cried. "He's here to hurt us." Traoré raised both hands. "I came alone. I don't want your weapons. I want your names." Silence. Then one child lowered his aim just slightly. A distant explosion shook the ground. Smoke curled above the trees. "They're cleaning up witnesses," Traoré muttered. The boy beside him froze. "You mean us?" "No," he said. "Us they fear. They'll come for me. But you're their proof. And proof must be protected." One child stepped forward. "If we go with you, what happens?" "You stop surviving," Traoré said, "and start living." He offered his hand. No one moved. Until the youngest child let his rifle drop, eyes full of something heavier than fear, hope. Behind them, branches snapped. Voices barked. "Secure the perimeter." The commander had returned with men who didn't hesitate. Traoré whispered, "Scatter. Head west. Follow the roots until the ground feels soft." "What about you?" the boy asked. "I'm not running," Traoré replied. "You ran once," the boy said. "Didn't you?" "No," Traoré answered. "I walked away, so I could come back for you." If you believe leadership means returning when no one expects a comment, he returned. Some leaders run toward fire, not away. Gunfire ripped the air. Traoré ducked behind a tree, shielding two of the children. "They're not aiming to scare," he muttered. "They're aiming to erase." He drew a flare from his belt. One shot into the sky. A blue arc his signal. He wasn't entirely alone after all. From the eastern ridge, a whistle echoed. Then, footsteps heavy, trained. Traoré's allies emerged, silent but swift. They didn't fire. They surrounded. Disarmed without killing. "Orders?" One asked. Traoré pointed. "Clear the command. Leave the children to me." The boy stood over his own rifle. "I thought I needed this to survive." Traoré knelt. "You never did. They just made you think so." The boy looked back once, then kicked the weapon deep into the brush. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of empty hands. An extraction truck rumbled through the clearing. The children climbed in, slowly quiet, watching. One boy paused. "You sure we're allowed to leave?" Traoré met his eyes. "You're not prisoners. You were never supposed to be." The boy stepped in, still uncertain, but stepping. The medic examined bruises, burns, scars. "They were beaten into silence," she whispered. Traoré nodded. "And we'll listen until their silence breaks." One child winced as antiseptic touched skin. Another didn't flinch because he didn't remember how. The captured commander stared from a kneeling position. "You think you've won?" he spat. Traoré crouched beside him. "No. You already lost the moment you feared a child holding nothing." The commander laughed bitterly. "They'll just find more." "Then I'll find them first," Traoré replied. At HQ, footage played. Hidden cameras, flare signals, intercepted comms. Ministers watched in silence. One whispered, "He walked into that death trap?" "Alone," someone replied. Another added, "And came out with more than intel, he came out with sons." News broke in waves. Child soldiers freed by President's raid. Operation Traoré. No blood, all bravery. Some scoffed. Staged, political theater. But one image stuck. A boy clinging to Traoré's hand, refusing to let go even when rescued. A tweet went viral. "He didn't carry a rifle, he carried us." If this moment made you believe leadership means kneeling, not commanding like this story, some men hold power. Others carry people. A teacher held a classroom silent as she replayed the clip. One student raised his hand. "Why didn't the president fight back?" The teacher smiled sadly. "Because sometimes the bravest thing is to choose not to fight at all." Traoré sat alone later that night, hands still stained from the forest floor. The boy approached. "You said you knew my brother." "I did," Traoré answered. "He once gave me water when no soldier would." The boy hesitated. "I want to be like him." "Like you." "Then start by choosing differently," Traoré whispered. In a press conference, Traoré said little. No victory claims. No slogans, just, we didn't win, we reclaimed. Their childhood, their names, and maybe our conscience. As lights faded, a journalist asked, "What would you tell the next child soldier?" Traoré replied, "That he was never born for this." If this story struck a nerve you didn't know, was their comment, he wasn't born for this. Let this echo where orders tried to erase. The camp quieted. The rescued boys didn't play, didn't laugh. They sat staring. One asked, "When do we go back?" Traoré knelt. "Back to what?" "I don't know." The boy looked down. "I've never been anywhere else." That's when Traoré understood freedom had to be taught. A letter arrived, crude handwriting, from one of the boys. "Thank you for not hitting me, or yelling, or looking scared. That's how I knew I wasn't a monster." Traoré folded it carefully. He didn't cry, but his hands trembled. At a government briefing, someone asked, "What if this creates political backlash?" Traoré didn't answer immediately. Then, "Let it. We saved boys. If that offends power, then power needs saving." No one objected again. A girl from another village approached the gates. "I heard." "You saved boys." "Yes," Traoré said. "Did you know some of us fight too?" she asked. He paused. "Not all wounds wear uniforms." And he opened the door wider. That night, a child drew a picture, 2 stick figures, one with a rifle, one with a hand extended. Above it, the words, "You saved me without shooting." If you believe mercy leaves a deeper mark than bullets, stay with this story. The next part still hurts. An elder approached Traoré quietly. "Some of these boys hurt others," Traoré nodded, "and were hurt worse. So what now?" The elder asked. "We don't forget," Traoré said. "But we don't throw them away either." The elder paused. "Then we must all learn how to forgive." One of the boys, now smiling faintly, asked for paper. "I want to write," he said. "I didn't know I could." "What do you want to say?" the counselor asked. He paused. "Nothing. Just my name. I want to see it for once." Suleiman returned to visit. "Remember me?" he asked one boy. "You punched me on day 1. The boy blushed. "You didn't punch back." "Because you weren't aiming at me," Suleiman said. "You were aiming at what they made you into." They sat side by side, silent but whole. Traoré stood at a podium, no press, just the boys. One day, someone will say, "That was just one operation," but you'll know. It was everything. If you believe stories like this deserve to outlive headlines, comment, "This was everything." Because not all battles leave scars. Some leave light. A new school opened near the recovery center. No gates. No uniforms. Just books and windows without bars. The sign outside read, "Where silence learns to speak." Inside, a former child soldier taught letters. He started with names. One classroom wrote essays titled, "If I Had Never Been Taken." Some were one line, others too long to finish. But every word carried a war they never chose. A teacher cried reading them. Not from pity, from recognition. At the Capitol, a statue was unveiled, not of Traoré, of a child, kneeling not in fear, but in choice. The plaque read, "He didn't fire, he chose." It wasn't about war. It was about moments that break cycles. An activist group began tracing missing children. Names resurfaced. Families reunited. One mother collapsed when she saw her son again. "I never believed this day would come." Neither did he. But belief isn't always a prerequisite for rescue. Traoré visited the center unannounced. No cameras. He sat with a boy building a tower from stones. "What are you making?" "A school," Traoré smiled. "Big dream." The boy shook his head. "No. Big enough for everyone." A viral post showed a drawing. A boy handing a broken rifle to Traoré. Caption, "He didn't teach me how to fight. He taught me when not to. If that lesson hit harder than a bullet like this story, some lessons are louder in silence. A song began circulating, written by the rescued children. Rough, raw, off-key, but powerful. It ended with, "We are not their soldiers. We are each other's future," and it stuck. Not in melody, but in meaning. At a policy meeting, someone asked, "What if we arm them again?" The room fell silent. Then a single voice, "What if we don't?" And suddenly, everything they'd built felt possible. One journalist visited the site and wrote, "You don't understand this place by asking questions. You understand it by listening." The piece ended with, "And in that silence I heard leadership." A former rebel sent a letter anonymously. He didn't come to punish us. He came to remind us we were better once. If that reminder moved something in you, comment, we were better. Not all redemption comes after defeat. Some comes during. One rescued boy stood before his class. "I used to think I was born to hurt," he said. "But someone walked through a gun and told me I wasn't." He sat down. No applause. Just silence, the kind that respects pain by not interrupting it. A reunion was arranged. One child saw his sister again after 3 years. She had braided a bracelet from grass. He wore it for weeks, not because it was strong, but because it held together. Traoré visited a memorial wall. It wasn't for the dead. It was for the found, each name hand-carved by the child who bore it. No dates, just names, proof that they were once forgotten, and then remembered right. A former commander testified in court. "I gave the orders," he said, "but they didn't fire." The judge asked, "Why?" He looked down. "Because someone reminded them they were still human." Some verdicts don't need gavel strikes, just memory. A bill passed. No more child conscription loopholes. No more blurred definitions. The law was simple. A child who holds a weapon is still a child. The chamber stood in rare unity. Even silence clapped. At sunset, Traoré sat outside the recovery center. One of the boys walked up. "I had a nightmare," he said. "So did I," Traoré replied. "But we're both awake now." And they watched the light not for what it revealed, but what it softened. A girl painted a mural. Children walking across a cracked battlefield, some holding hands, others reaching for books. Above them, we lived, we learned, we chose again. And below, in small letters, inspired by the man who walked in unarmed. One night, a boy asked Traoré, "Why did you come for us?" He answered, "Because you're mine." "Like your son?" "No," Traoré said. "Like my future." Years later, a new president visited that same forest trail. A plaque marked the ground. "This is where weapons fell and names rose." He touched the stone and whispered, "Lead like he did." Or not at all. Traoré's journal held one final entry. They were not born to pull triggers. They were born to pull each other forward. If this story will echo in you longer than the video share it, let what he did echo longer than what they made them do.